So let's talk about the targeted individuals. Why them? Why you, for example?
Well, in my case in the book, the girl that I was engaged to had kind of attracted the fancy of an older ear, nose, and throat surgeon in San Antonio, who had told me several years ago that he had this former FBI guy that he referred to as the ghost that did this barely legal harassment. And his exact words, he said, "I'm hiding him from my wife in case I ever need to use him to make her look crazy during a divorce." Well, at the time he told me that, I kind of blew it off and, thought, well, maybe this is just a guy that's just making himself look, grandiose and probably a little bigger than life. Until 2 years later, when I was engaged to this girl who I knew he had found attractive, and we had been on vacation with this guy and his wife before. This was a man and his wife who were well known to me. And then when I noticed her being stalked, and like I said, I live in a rural area. At the time, it wasn't even a driveway; it was a gravel road through a ranch to my home. And I would see her car leave the driveway at 2 a.m. and then immediately two more cars turn their lights on and follow her 5 miles up a gravel road to the nearest highway. I started following those vehicles, writing down the plate numbers. They all came back to this PI agency that he had told me about several years prior that he used to harass competitors, corporate espionage type of stuff. So she was strictly targeted just basically by someone interested in sexually assaulting her, which was what wound up happening with her. Now, most of the other victims I've talked to, there almost seems no reason for their victimization. I have had a handful of whistleblowers from government agencies that have came to me that are being targeted for being whistleblowers. But by and large, most of the victims seem to be randomly selected. And at least from a medical standpoint, being a physician and a researcher, this looks to me to be experimentation. It's being done in every major city. It's being done methodically, like it's being done with a manual, an instruction manual. Most of these victims will kind of report the same scenarios that they're hearing in their heads, report the same scenarios with the organized stalking and the same scenarios with the directed energy attack. So in my mind, on a grand scale, it's probably experimentation or continuation of MK Ultra. Having had their hands slapped initially by the Rockefeller Commission and the Church Committee hearings, I think what they did was be a little more careful to farm this out to governmental or prior governmentally hired people who are now in private industry. So there's some plausible deniability when and if these people ever get caught. So, they farmed out the technology to PI groups that are, most of them probably owned by former FBI or former CIA people who are now operating as civilians but being given access to government technology. It would appear to me that they're able to carte blanche select the victims however they want to, as long as the data goes back to the appropriate agencies at the top.